What if I told you the world you live in runs on a currency that no longer exists? Not gold, not paper, not even digital code, but belief. Every paycheck, every loan, every investment, all of it functions because billions of people still believe money means something real. Yet behind that belief lies a silent war between what money pretends to be and what it actually is. This war has been raging for centuries, shaping empires, collapsing nations, and quietly deciding who rules and who serves. And the truth, the victors of this war never needed armies. They only needed your trust. This is the secret war between money and reality they don't want you to see. To understand how the illusion began, we have to go back long before digital currency, before central banks, to the birth of trust-based money. In the early centuries, money was tangible. Gold, silver, salt, things with intrinsic value. Trade was simple, goods for goods. But as kingdoms expanded, hauling tons of metal became inconvenient. So rulers issued notes, promises that these papers could be redeemed for something real, and people believed it. Then came the first shift. The Medici bankers in 15th century Florence introduced ledgers, early accounting systems that allowed money to exist as numbers on paper. It was revolutionary and dangerous, because now, money didn't need to exist physically, it only needed to be recorded. That small shift was the spark that started the war between money and reality. For the first time, illusion had value, and whoever controlled the illusion controlled the world. By the 17th century, kings and emperors discovered a new trick. They realized they could fund wars, build empires, and pay armies not with wealth they had, but with wealth they promised. The Bank of England, founded in 1694, was the first institution to turn government debt into money. It lent to the crown with interest and issued notes backed by that debt. In other words, money was no longer a representation of gold, it was a representation of debt. That was the quiet beginning of the central banking age, a system that allowed nations to spend infinitely and citizens to owe infinitely. Over the next 2 centuries, this model spread like wildfire from London to Paris to Amsterdam and eventually to New York. Each nation built its own central bank, each one acting as both savior and parasite. The rich got richer not by creating goods, but by owning the flow of credit itself. By the early 20th century, one name would become synonymous with this invisible empire: the Federal Reserve. Born in 1913, the Fed was sold as a stabilizer of the economy, a neutral guardian against financial crises. But behind the curtain, private bankers quietly merged government power with corporate control over money creation. From that moment on, every dollar printed was born in debt, and the more debt there was, the more money existed. Money and reality had officially separated. For decades, the illusion held steady as long as the public believed paper could be traded for gold. But belief, like any currency, has limits. After World War II, the world turned to the Bretton Woods system, pegging every major currency to the US dollar and the dollar to gold. It was supposed to be the new stable world order. But by the 1960s, America was spending more than it produced, funding wars, welfare programs, and global dominance all on borrowed money. Foreign nations started to demand real gold instead of paper dollars. The vaults began to drain. And on August 15, 1971, President Richard Nixon made the most consequential announcement in modern financial history. The US would suspend the convertibility of dollars into gold. In that instant, money lost its final link to reality. Gold was gone. All that remained was trust. And trust, as we've seen, can be printed until it can't. The war had entered its final phase, the side of reality lost. From that day on, every dollar became a claim on nothing, backed only by faith and the promise of repayment. The decades that followed were an experiment, one the world didn't realize it was part of. With no tether to gold, central banks gained absolute freedom to expand the money supply. The global economy shifted from productivity to credit. Governments borrowed, corporations leveraged, consumers went into debt to buy lifestyles they couldn't afford. And every time the system trembled, minus 1987, 2008, 2020, the same medicine was prescribed: print more money. Each fix made the illusion stronger and the reality weaker. Here's the paradox: the more money we create, the less each unit is worth, yet the system requires that growth to survive. It's a treadmill that speeds up every decade, demanding more borrowing, more speculation, more manipulation just to stand still. And it's not just an American problem. The global debt has now surpassed $315 trillion. That is nearly 4 times the total world GDP. In other words, humanity owes more money than it has ever created wealth to repay. But to whom? That's the haunting question, because debt doesn't vanish. It transfers from citizens to banks, from banks to governments, from governments back to central banks. The system has become a snake devouring its own tail, sustained by illusion, fear, and faith in a promise that cannot be kept forever. Look closer and you'll see the same pattern repeat. Trust collapses, a new form of money is introduced. Those who control it win. The Roman Empire debased its coins with cheaper metals and fell. Weimar Germany printed its way to collapse. The US turned debt into wealth and exported the illusion worldwide. Every civilization that mistakes currency for reality meets the same fate. Confidence evaporates, because in the end, reality doesn't care about credit ratings, interest rates, or stimulus packages. It cares about energy, resources, and human labor. And those things can't be printed. So what does this secret war teach us? Takeaway 1. Money is not wealth. It's a claim on wealth, and claims can vanish overnight. Takeaway 2. Every financial crisis is not an accident, it's a correction. Reality reminding us what's real and what's not. Takeaway 3. The next version of money, digital, centralized, and programmable, won't solve the problem, it will complete it. The war between money and reality isn't over. But for the first time, you can choose which side to stand on. Understand where value really comes from. Your work, your energy, your time, your creativity. Those are the currencies no central bank can print, because when this illusion finally cracks, and it will, what survives 1 TB numbers on a screen, it'll be the things that were real all along. If this story opened your eyes, don't let it close here. Share it, question it, and remember, the only power illusion has is the belief we give it. Fade out to dark screen. Subscribe for more hidden histories of money and power.